So the big question is this: how do small businesses like yours, who feel like you're doing all the right things and going to all the right events, reach the federal buyer in a way that helps you win more contracts? That is the question, and this is the place to get your answers. My name is Neil McDonnell. Welcome to the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Okay, let's get started. Today's video, I want to pick up on a video I did previously about the GAO.gov site, and I'll go there in a second. But the other video was about introducing you to it and some of the things they had on there. So go ahead and take a look at it. But I wanted to talk to you even more deeply about this site and how I use it when I'm supporting larger customers that I help. And let me just set the scenario. I have a customer who's got a lot of experience in supply chain management, logistics, and they've got past performances, and now they're deciding on standing up a vertical on that. So really focusing on that particular business, a division, if you will. And we're getting ready to write a strategic plan for them for the next 5 years. They want to define what that means going after that. And so I'm just doing some research, and it's convenient for me that it's also in GAO where I go do some of my research. And I just wanted to show you how powerful this site was by applying it to something I'm doing personally, right? I'm not just conceptually throwing out tips for you. I'm telling you exactly what I do to help customers and what other successful business people do. So let's pop over to the GovCon. I mean, not the GovCon. Yes, we own this site. No, the Government Accountability Office, or GAO. I already went through the demo, so you can look at that. But one of the places I went to here for this research is into agencies. This customer focuses heavily on DoD. They've got a lot of experience. So I came in here, and here I can see a lot of different reports on different agencies. And the one I wanted to find was DoD. And I'm going to pause here for a second before I click on this link. What I was planning on was seeing something about the Navy or Air Force where they've got even a big focus. But because this is a vertical, a specialty that they have, they don't necessarily need to constrain themselves to the primary agencies I generally recommend. So you go deep on an agency, or you can go deep on a competency. So supply chain management, they can go across different agencies. But my initial reason for coming here was to click on DoD, look at the Navy or something. And when I came in here, and I just clicked on that, and take a second. But when I came in, came to the Department of Defense, and it's got recent reports. That's what I was looking for. Anything interesting I can find that'll be helpful. And looking at all these, what I ended up on was this one, because it was supply chain management strategy key to addressing existing challenges. Now, this is in the VA, but this is huge because it was recently published a few days ago. I'm recording this, I think, on the 27th of March. And this was just published, and it's talking about supply chain management. So it absolutely caught my eye. And when I clicked into it, there's a lot of stuff here. I can read it. It's got highlights, et cetera. I read all this, which is great. But then I clicked on this and I said, well, I definitely want to see the full report. So let me walk you through a full report. It might seem like I'm walking through a lot, but understand I'm hoping to teach you how I analyze a document, and then how I move closer and closer to people I can call and talk to about supply chain management in this case, and be able to sell. That's what this is all about, right? You're trying to sell your company to the government as the solution to their problem. And so anyways, in here, comprehensive supply chain management strategy key to address existing challenges. And I want to walk you through just the stuff I saw. And I've got a fair amount highlighted, but bear with me as I go through. So coming down, one of the first things I see is what they found, right? What GAO found. What they found in here is underscoring the need for supply chain improvements in acquisition management efficiencies. So right off the page, I'm like, all right, this is exactly what you want. You don't want to be going into an agency who says, hey, we got it all together, and GAO audits them and say, hey, you guys are the best agency ever. Well, there's no real need for you. But in here, there's screaming need there. And you can see on the left-hand side, also what a GAO, why GAO did this study. They've been doing this kind of study for a while, but due in part to long-standing supply chain management issues that predated the pandemic. And so this report was because of major issues that came up during COVID-19 that the Department of Veterans Affairs identified, but for GAO, they're like, well, this stuff has been going on for a while. It just became really obvious with COVID. Another thing here, GAO March 21 high risk update reported that VA has made limited progress in addressing its acquisition management challenges. So when I turn back and I talk to my client, I'm going to sit there and say, we need to create a strategy of getting in there and start identifying their problems. If you haven't watched my videos on sales, I have this whole, I think it's like Sales 301 series of videos that walk you through how to do spin selling, which is a methodology that's out there. But basically, spin is situation questions, problem questions, implication questions, and needs payoff questions. And the point is, when you go in, you don't just go in and say, hey, I see you've made limited progress. No, you're trying to ask them questions to uncover those needs. So take a look at that. But that's a good sign right there. And then further in here, you see where VA plans to replace more than half its supply chain management systems. They're in chaos, right? And if my customers got the experience that they say they can do, then they need to get in there and be part of the solutioning and not just proposing, right? They need to get in there and help the government understand what they should be considering. This is beautiful when you look at a typical 12 to 36 month window of capture and business development. This isn't about just responding to an opportunity you see in SAM tomorrow, right? It's about really getting in and doing business development and capture. This next thing I highlighted, which was awesome as well. Here it talks about VA lacks a comprehensive supply chain strategy for its various and interrelated supply chain management initiatives. And I thought this is awesome because we have a strategy. In fact, we're creating a strategy document on how to exactly sell to the federal government on a much broader level than just opportunities, but really trying to influence the government as a trusted advisor. And to find out they lack a comprehensive supply chain strategy, say that 3 times fast, I'm going to go back again to my customer and say, hey, how can we start introducing mini white papers, even some videos out there that begin to target the VA in this particular case of giving them answers to questions maybe they should be thinking about, but they haven't thought about along the lines of strategy. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be doing that, but this is what this customer should be doing. So I'm just going to keep scrolling down. Coming down, I saw that now that they're getting into testimony, by the way, if you haven't done this before, this is somebody doing testimony before Congress, which seems dry, right? It's on C-SPAN. It's nothing. But if you're in sales, read this stuff. People do not read. And if you take the time to read, you'll be ahead of 99% of your competitors because you just took the time to read and learn what these people are saying. But here they're focusing on how the pandemic response has underscored VA's challenges with its various and related supply chain management and modernization initiatives. So the pandemic didn't create challenges for the VA. It underscored the existing challenges. This is a heavily funded organization within the federal government. Why are you at this state? My customer needs to get in there and begin to figure out what are those challenges that they're facing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of documents that lay that out, and I'll go into that in a minute. Here's another great line as I just coming down. We conducted interviews with VA officials responsible for VHA and VA-wide procurement and logistics, program office managers, supply chain managers. And the point of this was when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I got to find out who those people are, right? It's not enough for me to read this report. You got to keep moving the sales cycle forward. And in here, I need to know who's got concerns about it. And it's not just a supply chain or logistics manager or something, program manager, but it's the people who are impacted by that. It could be the emergency room. They're not getting the supplies they need. Supply chains go from, it's a whole story, but full life cycle. So you want to begin to know it, but that's what I got out of there. Scrolling down, I know I'm going to be scrolling fast here, but here, great call out over to the left. VA lacks comprehensive supply chain management strategy, raises questions about its major modernization efforts. That's huge, right? And VA has made limited progress in addressing its acquisition management challenges. Well, shoot, we're here to help you, right? That's what my customer needs to be positioning themselves. And this is why any of us who advise you tell you, make sure you have a core competency. Make sure you're really good at something. You can be kind of good at other things that associate with that one thing, but you have got to have a core competency. And in this case, we're talking about supply chain management. So VA is pursuing multiple major initiatives to modernize its supply chain, but it faces challenges in implementing these efforts. Well, this is super exciting to me. First off, it sucks for the VA, right? I feel bad for them and I feel bad for the vets who are getting care. But from a sales perspective, what really is exciting to me is that they're pursuing these major initiatives. I need to know what they are because they're going to be supplying or modernizing the supply chain. And then the same thing is they're facing challenges with implementing. Well, my customer has experience doing this throughout DoD, not just with supply chain, but with other systems, weapon systems, for example. And they're able to bring this back in, this expertise into the VA. Is my thought process on this as I'm reading it. So coming down here, there's a lot of stuff, selected veteran affairs, system modernization initiatives. And I did highlight a lot and just really quickly telling you why I do it though. Here at DoD program, it's intended to provide VA medical centers with access to 200,000 supplies from DLA. Those started as a pilot. The VA now intends to implement this program in lieu of its own program. The reason I highlighted this is I need to know for my customer, or my customer needs to know, what is this DLA program that they're talking about? And how do we make sure we're very knowledgeable about it when we go in, right? You don't want to go in and not be able to talk about this system at the top, this MSPV or DLA's version of it. And then coming further down, a system adopted from DoD. So DoD had it and the VA has now adopted it, and to be managed by VHA is placing orders as well as other capabilities in there at an estimated cost of $2.8 billion. VA's new electronic health record and financial systems also rely on successful implementation of this thing that they're talking about. That's really important to me because you're talking about tens of billions of dollars over the next 5 to 15 years. And you can see this maybe in a table farther down, but that's really important because it's like, okay, how do we get in there? How do we find some of these large firms and show them the expertise we have in particular areas? Next line, you see new supply chain initiatives. One of the reasons I highlighted this is these questions on the right-hand side. Will VA use the program or other contracting mechanisms to supply these regional centers? What type of emergency response support? What range of items will they stock? The reason this was important to me is because my customer deals with digital twins, this ability to stand up an entire supply chain digitally to test out all these questions that the government is writing down. Here, in this case, it's GAO writing it down, but I'm sure the VA is doing this themselves, saying, what can we do? How will our supply chain react if this happens or if this happens? Well, this customer I work with who has digital twins is able to come in and talk to the government about how they can help them answer those questions. Anytime I see enterprise-wide, I pipe up or pop up. Well, whatever it is, I could show up. That's what it is, maybe. But initiatives affecting supply chain. The minute I see that, I'm like, we got to get that. So once implemented, this system will interface with the supply chain through DMLSS, which VA has identified as key dependency for successful deployment. And then, so to me, again, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure we understand that. But this is being said as part of this $10 billion contract. Or I guess it's saying it's a $16 billion contract, but I know that Cerner is a large company that has this contract, and they're constantly looking for small businesses. And the firm I'm supporting is small. I mean, they're close to graduating, but they're small. And so it's ability for them to get out there and talk to these folks, and you see what's going on. But over here, same thing on the right-hand side. Will the VA address critical and high severity test findings before deploying the system at additional locations? So Cerner, as an example, is very good at standing up electronic health records. They did it in DoD. That's why they're doing VA. And but are they good at really forecasting and seeing what's going to happen if they go left, if they go right, backwards, straight, whatever? And that goes into that digital twin kind of an initiative. And that's why I highlight this. So coming down, you see the same things. It's really important when you see notes, keep tracking on it here, the Veterans First program. So this is where, coincidentally, the firm I'm talking about is an SDVO. So, understanding that that's important. You don't ever want to lead with your tags like SDVO, SB, but making sure that it's visible is good. But this next one here, it's talking about CGAO's electronic health records. They made progress in preparing for the new system, but subsequent test findings will need to be addressed. How are they dealing with the results of these tests? How are they testing? They're good at rolling it out, but are they good at seeing what's going on? Same thing here, key supply chain management modernization initiatives. They start talking about what's going on. Here's another thing that just popped out for me. In September 2020, we reported that VHA, Veteran Health Administration, had not identified criteria for evaluating the pilot. So they haven't even figured out what criteria they'll measure this pilot program to see if it's successful, including whether it would be scalable to other medical centers. They have 150 medical centers or hospitals, and they haven't even got that at September 2020. That wasn't long ago. That was very recently. And so I want to dig into that and find out about that, because when my customer goes in, I want to make sure they have questions to ask that are related to this, that perhaps could bring that challenge up to see if it still is a problem, right? And if it is, how do we want to talk about it? And these little nuggets you find in here on a lot of them. Here is this system they were talking about. It's intended to replace half of VA's current supply chain management systems. That's huge. And I want to know, what are the systems, and then which are the systems that are going to be replaced? Also interfacing with 2 enterprise modernization efforts, and those are the ones I was talking about, finance and electronic health records. So just understanding those and figuring out where they fit. This one here, look at that, right? If you've stuck on this long, you see the VA received $100 million recently in the rescue plan for supply chain modernization. I believe my customer deserves some of that, and they need to go knock on the door and earn that, right? So demonstrating their ability to help the government. But now I'm looking at it saying, okay, you have money, and if we've really got the right solutions, then we can help you. So here it talks about coming out of COVID-19. You got supply chain management initiatives. This one I really liked. VA is taking steps to develop or participate in new supply chain programs. Each is in the early stage of planning or implementation, and questions remain about their implementation, including how will they work in concert with VA's existing modernization initiatives. The fact that they're even asking that is a huge challenge to them. This goes back to me with digital twins. Perhaps they could stand all of this stuff up in a digital environment and be able to begin to answer some of those questions. And so finding the right people to begin to have these conversations is good, but at least I already know what's going on. And I definitely want to know what the new supply chain management programs are. So let's go. And I kind of slowed down there a little bit. VHA has not articulated how these programs, which are meant to deal with the medical supplies and emergencies, will be integrated. So this, again, they're calling it out. And the next one, VA lacks comprehensive supply chain management strategy. It's like the 5th, 6th, 7th time I've heard that, right? They don't have it for their modernization effort. VA has many ongoing initiatives related to supply chain modernization. I want to know what all of them are. Here's a table of the most important ones. And this is great. I look at this and I go, okay, how do we make sure we understand? The thing that's best about this table that I love is this is going out 7 years or something, right? 2028. This is huge. And by the way, just a quick pause. I know I'm talking about supply chain management, but if you're in communication and marketing or outreach, for example, this electronic health records modernization, that goes out 10 years. They need all sorts of communication help. How do they keep communicating with all the 150 hospitals, 800 CBOCs or community-based outpatient centers? I used to support the VA for many, many years, but they need that kind of support. So let's go ahead and scroll down. VA must determine how all its supply chain modernization initiatives will be implemented in a way that's consistent with the statutory requirements. When I look at that, here they're talking about trying to make sure that SDVOs are in there, but I also want to make sure that I'm tracking on any statutory requirements. That should go in our 5-year strategy, is that we really know these statutory requirements almost better than the VA themselves. Right? If we want to sell in there, if we want to, and I'd say we, for this customer of mine, we want to be true partners, then we may need to make sure we understand these statutory requirements and are helping the government themselves understand them. Requirements come out all the time, regulations do. So here, hey, guess what? VA does not have a comprehensive supply chain management strategy. And the reason I highlighted this though, sorry about that. And the reason I highlighted this though was because right here it says March 2019 Modernization Campaign Plan, and it talks about other stuff, but what it's telling me is it hasn't had a new plan, and this plan wasn't even sufficient. But the reason I highlighted it is I want to come back and find it. And you'll see that in a second when I go to this Google tab. So I guess I'm going there because here's the conclusion. Okay, so I blew through there. I don't know how long it took, but for me to read this, it took an hour, let's say, right? I actually took less time, but I read it very fast with this intention of coming back. And I read these all the time. But it would take you about an hour to read and begin to absorb a plan like this. Take the time to do that. So you remember here, I just said, I'm bouncing around a little bit, modernization plan. So I came over here and I just typed in VHA modernization campaign plan. And I got some results back. And this one I really liked. It was taking me to a VA modernization page, which is awesome. So I want to come in, but mostly I'm looking for supply chain. So I scrolled down. I read all this stuff. It's pretty. It looks great. But the part that mattered to me was right here, supply chain modernization. So here I went from a GAO report, made a quick stop at Google, and then came on over to the VA site onto their modernization site. And this company I support, they don't do just supply chain. They do digital transformation, the whole IT side of it. And they do financial management from the back end. So not the finance side, but these systems that go into place. So this is a great page for them. And then coming out of the modernization, I was still looking for that strategic plan. And so Google sent me to here, just another link, right? And in here, in this page, I scrolled down. It never really had a real link, but down here it had a link to the bigger 2018-2024 strategic plan, which I've released on social media a long time ago. But I saw their performance page. And so I said, let me take a shot at that, and clicked over here. And so here it just had every plan and budget they had, which is awesome. This is what you want to do on your primary agencies, is get in there and know it. But I scrolled down and then I saw this guy here, which ties into exactly what we were just looking at. So I was reading this stuff, and what I really saw, though, was this action plan. So the VA's action plan for addressing issues. Now, these issues are older issues, but I didn't care. I saw it and I wanted to see what was going on, because now I'm trying to find the right people to reach out to if I can. So in here, I linked to a high risk management or high risk plan, right? So managing risk and improving healthcare. This was not long ago, 1 year ago. That's very, very recent in government times, right? They think in birthdays, a year at a time. And so coming down here, I started scrolling down, and I'm not going to go through this document like I did the other one, but I did want to show you that if you search, I think I did supply, there you go, supply chain. So I'm going to close this because I searched and I found in the table of contents right away, transform supply chain. Come down here, and this stuff is awesome. It's gold for going in and figuring out how, as a vendor, can we help the VA. And the part I liked best, which is exactly what I was looking for, is who's got responsibility for transforming the supply chain. Tammy does, and Robert does. Robert's a network director, so he heads up 8 hospitals or something. And Tammy's up here at the national level for VHA or for VA. And those two people are going to be stepping points. I will now reach out and see where I can find anything they've done on YouTube, on the VA site, blogs, anywhere where they've talked publicly, so we can create a plan to reach back in and talk to them. I would probably start actually with Robert first, because network directors are they're local. And I know I'm going to say this not too nice, but I've just worked a lot at the VA at the vision level, so I would be popping down there. But these two people will lead us to other people. And that was the whole point, right? I went from a GAO page report, came here to this large report, right? In here, saw a report. I dug down into it. It led me to say, hey, let me go look for this modernization campaign plan, which led me to a couple of pages. That one was nice. It was a sidebar, but it was nice. And then this one, which was really important, that led me to the plans, which are right here, which led me to an action plan, which led me to some people. I did all that inside of an hour, right? Even if it takes you 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, that's totally worth it when you talk about business development for a primary agency or business development for a primary core competency, right? We want to be the best across DoD and VA in supply chain management. So I'm putting this video out for you all, and I'll actually send a link to my customer and say, hey, go take a look at it, because there's a lot of good stuff into it, and the videos for you all out there. But I hope you follow this same process. Let me know if you ever follow this process and you find some great context that you're able to call to. And again, if you found this content valuable, others will too. Please give it a thumbs up so they can find it. If you'd like to connect with me personally, do so on LinkedIn. We often do free training webinars and interview federal buyers. Sign up for the GovCon Chamber's email list to be notified about these opportunities at www.govconchamber.com. Finally, please consider becoming a sustaining member of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Help us keep bringing you great content like this for $1 a day. I'm Neil McDonnell, wishing you great success.